There are 31 days in October. I need you to know that number so you understand my pain when I say there are 36 Webtoon original series that came out in October. More series came out in October than there are days of the month in October. And I am cursed to read every single Webtoon series that comes out in 2024. So if you want to know the highs and lows of October, welcome to Coffee Break. Welcome back, everyone, to Coffee Break, where I talk about every single Webtoon series that comes out in a month, unscripted. Like I said, 36 series came out in October, so I can't spend too much time just waiting around and not explaining series. So let me quickly go through how this works. I will go through every single Webtoon series that comes out in not the order it comes out, but in the order of it coming out and if I'm reading them. So all the ones that I'm not reading or I'm not subscribed to will be clumped together at the beginning, then the series that I would pick up under different circumstances, and then the series I will or have picked up. But like always before we start, we also do a game of bingo. Woo! The bingo game is kind of just a bunch of tropes and cliches Webtoon does a lot of. I have a list of, I think, 29. The free space is an isekai, because there's always, how dare you put isekai up there. And I'm going to randomize it, so we'll see what it randomizes to. I have a list of things on the side to see, and I'll be keeping track of this on the side. So if we can quickly... These are our tropes and our cliches that we will be looking out for, and the free space will be in isekai. So let's jump into this because I do not want to spend 2 hours talking about 36 Webtoon series. Let's get into it. My Beloved Emperor follows the Emperor and a slightly criminal female lead. This falls under the chronically single thing. The idea of a chronically single is that there is an emphasis on characters being single or not being interested in a lot of people until randomly sparks fly between the one person that they meet randomly by chance. This is kind of that general idea where, you know, there's an emperor who lived alone who had just like no interest at all in anyone. He did not care about any single person. Everyone thought he was either into men or not into anyone. And then comes our female lead, who is criminal, and I assume sparks fly between them. It's, I believe, a Canvas series that it was like done on Canvas, and then it was yoinked and then brought on to Webtoon. This happens a lot. It actually happened 2 or 3 more times this month, where a lot of series will be finished on Canvas, and then Webtoon yoinks them and then puts them on originals as a Daily Pass original. This one, and I think 2 or 3 more. Overall, I just didn't gravitate towards it. I don't hold Daily Pass original series to a higher standard, but I do hold them to a standard of, do I want to read this every day versus every week when it updates? And the answer was not really, I'll be honest. There's not sure, no shade onto the person who wrote it. And that's, I think, a good piece of advice for every single series I'm talking about. No shade to the people who make this series. I can't do that. I'm not a good artist or a good author, but it's just not a series that I would care to read every single day kind of thing. But we can move on to our next series because we don't have a lot of time. Stare Down! Period. There's a period in Stare Down. Is a school romance following these 2 dudes who fall in love, I guess, maybe. It's hard to talk about this series because I just don't know what this series has to offer. It's just these 2 dudes who fall in love, I guess. The thing about it is that I don't care about school romances anymore. Too many school romances have come out over the year, and every time it comes out, they just bring it. It's a school romance. It's cute. And like, yeah, that's fine, but it can be a little more than just a little cute. And that's what this series is. It's just a little cute. And overall, I think if you read it, I understand why you read it is the thing. I understand that you enjoy this type of series. And I did enjoy these types of series for a while when I was younger. But I'm older now. And it's not a bad thing to be a school setting. I do still read a good amount of school settings, but in my mind they have to bring a little more than it's cute and it's a little romance and it's gonna be so fun. You know, it has to be a little more enjoyable than that. Another big thing is I don't really know what these characters have to offer. One is competitive, one is more relaxed, but they both have like a little bit of a dark side to them. Overall, not for me, but I don't think it's a bad series. It's also another one of the Daily Pass original series. No bingo for this one though. Let's move on. The Villainess Just Wants to Live in Peace is another bingo card. It is under isekai'd into a book as a villain. Isekai'd into the book as the villain thing. Man, it's like every single reincarnation into the book as the villain kind of trope. Female lead, I think dies in a plane crash or a plane explosion, which is a wild thing to die to. Oh, sorry, my alarm went off. It's a crazy thing to die to, just an plane explosion. She gets reincarnated as the twin sister of the main character, who is like the evil one, and she's evil. Overall, it's like every single isekai'd into the book as the villain type of series. And it's not terrible in the aspect of, oh, it's an isekai'd into the book as a villain series, but it is just kind of like pretty mundane in terms of that. It is not, I'll say there are series that are like the height of a trope, and when I say the height of a trope, I don't mean that as a good thing. It's like the culmination of why this trope kind of turns so many people off for this trope. A lot of series have this for like isekais and reverse isekais, and there are series like that for the isekai into the book as a villain. This isn't that, I'll say. There are kind of more interesting things it does with the world and the characters that those series don't, but also it's just not so interesting that I want to engage with it every week kind of thing. But it does knock a thing out bingo, so you know what? I'll take my wins. So let's move on to our next series. Chocolate Snow is weird. It's pretty weird. I'll say it's very strange. Guy gets drunk because his senpai is dating someone, and then he thinks a random dude with white hair is a senpai, and the implication is that they sleep together while he's drunk. It's pretty weird. I'll say, is it like the worst? It's not good. It's not good. It's pretty bad, I'll say. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, but I'll say once a month, Webtoon has like a, what the hell, Webtoon? Like, it has like a, why is this on the platform kind of thing? And it is usually a mature series that has something to do with like sex and dating and it going wrong kind of thing. And this is that series. It is justifiably given a 4 stars, so that it's less than 6 stars, but like it's a why is this on Webtoon kind of thing. It's a very confusing series to be here. I understand there is an audience. If you like that audience, if you are that audience, sorry, I just don't agree with some of these things. No, like it's hard to talk about it without just being like, this is bad. So I'm just gonna move on. It's not good, I'll say. There are plenty of other good Webtoon series. Go read those. Ignore this one. Yeah, the art is pretty and the guys are guys. If you're into the toxic, what is it? Toxic yaoi? Toxic yuri? Yuri is the females. Yaoi. If you're into that toxic yaoi, here's this for you. It's not for me though. Let's move on. Hell's Paradise. That word, I'm not saying that word, is a Viz Media manga, I believe, on Webtoon, colored. I don't know what this is doing on Webtoon. Like, it's a Webtoon original series. Webtoon has brought it to this, Viz Media and Webtoon have brought it together on this thing. I don't know anything about manga or Viz Media or anything. I didn't even know this was a manga until Anime Star Productions came to me and was like, hey, you know, why is there a manga on Webtoon? And I'm like, explain. And then he told me this is a Viz Media manga. So you know what? This is a Viz Media manga. I don't know anything about it other than dude's a criminal. He's given a second chance to kind of clear his name and go and find something. I assume apparently it's the elixir of life. It is a daily pass original series, so it is, I think, completed, but you have to kind of you either have to watch an ad to get episodes, or you get 1 episode a day kind of thing. That's what daily pass is. I kind of forgot to mention that. Overall, I don't care about it. The thing is, I just don't care about a lot of traditional manga. It has never really struck me as all that interesting, because Webtoon is, I always saw Webtoon as like being by the fans for the fans kind of thing. I always saw it as like the YouTube of webcomics. And it's a pretty good mentality to have when dealing with a lot of these series, because it's supposed to be very subversive in a sense. The webtoon series are always supposed to be a little more up on certain tropes and cliches, which makes it kind of tricky when dealing with them, because they are in the midst of making it while a trope is kind of popular. So we get a lot of isekais and reverse isekais and royal regression revenge series and love triangles and all this nonsense. But I think overall a lot of the webtoon original series are good. I just don't care about this media. Oh boy, we can move on. Tales of the Unusual 2 is the sequel series to Tales of the Unusual 1. So we can mark that off as a tie back to a different author and series. These are an anthology. An anthology are mini kind of arcs that don't super connect with each other, and they're supposed to be just like a mini series of horror stuff. And I'll say a lot of while reading these, it is less a kind of series of horror stuff and more of a kind of like goosebumpy type story, where they are slightly scary and a little gory, but like more focused on kind of being a little stupid. Like this one has a dude kind of hit a deer's head, and then when you hit the deer's head, you replace someone's face kind of thing. So it's a very, so there's like someone who got hit in that. It's a very weird kind of series and kind of stories. So honestly, I don't really mind it at all. But like this this is so stupid. Look at this. This is such a stupid thing. And honestly, I don't think it's trying to be like, oh, it's very spooky, scary, and you're gonna get thrills and chills. No, there are other series out there that if you want horror, you can get horror. But this is more supposed to be a little more stupid. And I think it kind of goes into that. And there's definitely an audience, since there was an original series and now this is the sequel series. So we can move on to our next series. It's a series, all right. Pieces of Humans is a cool zombie apocalypse story. First of all, I'll say the art is super cool. It's like I don't know, I'm not a good art person. I don't know how to describe things well, but it reminds me of just like the what is it, watercolors with the paint. I don't know how to describe it. I sound like a tool, but like it's just like the art style is so cool. I don't know how to describe it. I really want to know how to describe it, but it's a cool art style that you don't get with a lot of horror. You don't get a lot with zombie apocalypse stuff, and I think that's an important aspect of this series, because it's hard to sell yourself as a zombie apocalypse story because there's just so many out there. And also, I'm not a fan of zombie apocalypse stories because there's no good endings in these series. And I think going into a zombie apocalypse story expecting good ending is stupid, but there's also just like there's not usually like a happy ending, and I don't need a happy ending, mind you. I don't need a happy ending in every story, but it's a part of having like a not happy ending is this idea of playing around with hope and despair. And yeah, you can play around with hope and despair a little bit in a zombie apocalypse, but it feels like the world's doomed kind of no matter what you want to do. But this one is interesting because of its art style and also because of its premise, where we follow more of a military base who actually develops a cure for the zombie apocalypse or the mutation or the disease or whatever. But the downside is that it doesn't actually cure everything. Like, you're done. Like, you're not gonna be like a murderer who just eats people, but you retain some of your mind, but also you're still rotting from the inside, right? So you're still kind of diseased, but you're gonna need constant transplants of people, like living people, into you to kind of stay alive, or else you're just gonna keep on rotting and dying away. And that's a cool aspect that I didn't think was like gonna be super interesting for this series, but it actually has been really interesting and a really cool part of this series. Overall, just not a big zombie apocalypse fan, but I think in terms of zombie apocalypses, this is like my second favorite take on a zombie apocalypse. My first take happened like 2 or 3 months ago. We can move on to our next series. This is a horror thriller series, by the way. It's bingo. Sorry. We can move on to our next series. Too Late for Regrets. Remember when I mentioned like the height of a series or the height of a trope, where it feels like just the culmination of like all the other tropes combined, and it's just not super good because of it. This to me is the height of the royal regression revenge romance trope, where female lead has a bad life through circumstances involving some toxic member of her life, a fiance, a husband, a boyfriend, a family member. She dies, and then she goes back in time, and she has a second chance to do it all right, yada yada yada. This is the height of that. The reason I say that is because I feel like it throws a lot at you without throwing anything at you. It's like a weird mix of, there's a lot in this series, there's also nothing in this series. Like, there's gods of darkness, and then there's treaties and alliances and wars, and like a very cold male lead who might be in love with her but might not be. And then our female lead, I think the biggest problem with this series is our female lead has like no agency at all. Like, I don't understand her motives, I don't understand what she's doing, I don't understand what she wants. And that's a weird thing for this trope, because this trope is the perfect excuse to have like not a lot of reasoning or drive, because you know the drive already. You don't have to explain someone's perspective, you know their perspective. It's revenge. It's part of the trope. It's the royal regression revenge romance, you know? She goes back in time, there's royalty, she falls in love, and she gets revenge. Those are your 4 things. And the fact that like this is supposed to be that trope, but also like I don't understand her motive. Like, you have the easiest motive. She wants to get revenge on someone, anyone, but she doesn't want really revenge. She feels so passive for getting a second chance of life. And normally that's not a bad thing. Being passive in the first go about things is usually how they end up in that situation, and then their second time around, they are not passive anymore. They are active. They are on the offense all the time. You know, that's every series that has this kind of trope. And that's part of the charm of someone who was not someone who was super active or super fighting, someone who was passive all the time, now flips the script and is now super active and fighting back against everything. You know, that's kind of part of the trope, part of the style of what the series or what this trope is. So having this series not do that and just continue to make her passive feels a very weird kind of thing. I don't know, I just wasn't super into it. We can move on to our next series. My Girlfriend is a pretty disturbing horror series. Male lead has a girlfriend. Sorry, I thought the background was a different series. Male lead has a girlfriend. Girlfriend gets hit by a car. She gets hit by a car. She goes to the hospital. Everything's A-okay, because of course it would be A-okay. She goes to the hospital. Everything's A-okay. Turns out she's a horrifying monster who doesn't actually die, kind of thing. It goes back into those what is it? It goes back into like the if you watched last month's or any of my shorts, it goes into like the To Drown You kind of series, where you don't know what's real and what isn't kind of thing, where it feels like she is a monster and everything he experiences is real. But then there are moments of like his best friend dying, but the next day, tomorrow, or the next day he's fine, he's alive, he's just hanging out and chatting. So it ties into like the unreliable narrator, where like you don't know what's real or what's not, and what he sees might not actually be real. You know, it's an interesting kind of take on that kind of series. So overall, you know, it's a fun horror thing, fun horror series, but also I'm just not a big horror guy. I just don't care about horror. I like one horror series. I like 4 horror series. I say one because I just really like Memorial as a series. I will always sing Memorial's praises no matter where in time we are. I like Memorial as a horror series. It kind of set the standard of me for what a great horror series on Webtoon is. And I think there is a better horror series that's come out this month. But I think it's not bad, and I understand why people really like it. We can move on to our next series. Amelia, the Level 0 Hero. I had higher hopes for than I was gonna get. Look, I like when female leads are like I like female leads in fantasy situations. Like, I think that's super cool. Peace Restaurant is great. There's another series that's come out this month. That's great. So I'm excited for female leads in fantasy situations, like isekais or nonsense like that. Not like, oh, a book isekai, but like an actual isekai kind of thing. So I was excited for this one because it's our female lead and she's super strong, XYZ, but it's kind of boring. It's just like the culmination of an isekai kind of thing. Not the biggest culmination, but like, oh, she's super strong, but she's super laid back. And, you know, she doesn't want to kind of follow the system that's telling her to be a hero kind of thing. Overall, she's just a human who's level 0, but has all this power anyways. Like, honestly, I thought it was going to be more interesting than it was. This was the first series that came out this month. And I'll say last month, or... not September, I guess. September was a banger. It was such a good month for series. Like, it started off really mid and then got super great out of nowhere. So this was like following September. So I was like, oh, here's this. I'm like, oh, I thought it'd be a little more interesting, but it's fine. I guess it's okay. I don't care about it. It's an isekai. So you know what? That's fine, I guess. We can move on. Silvyre. He's a vampire hunter series. Dude is the son of 2 commanders that are vampire hunters, and he learns to be a vampire hunter and then immediately fails at being a vampire hunter. It's not bad, I'll say. It's not super disinteresting. I like a lot of what it has. I have a couple problems with it. I don't want to jump immediately into the problems, but I feel like I already did, so sorry. The big thing is just not for me. It's a very bloody, gory action series, and I'm okay with blood and gore every now and again, but it doesn't like get me super interested when it's like the main focus, and like it's vampires, it's gonna be the main focus anyways. It's fine, I guess. Character, I think motivation is interesting. I think there's another problem this series has is that it only had 3 episodes on release. And I think it's really hard to judge a series based on 3 episodes. Because they try to leave it off on a cliffhanger where he's about to get bitten, but he might not be and all that stuff. But I didn't read past, oh, he was gonna get bitten, he was gonna turn into a vampire. Because nothing about it was like, oh, it didn't grab my attention for the next week. Like, it didn't make me sit on my edge of my seat and like, oh, what's happening next week? I can't wait to see it. It's okay, I guess. It's okay. And I know the author is around, so I don't want to be like, this is trash, because overall, it's a good series. It's a series that I would read under different circumstances, but those circumstances are, I just read a lot of series. I have to be really picky when it comes to what I want to read every week. And also, there's just like not that much that grabs my attention to read the next week's episode kind of thing. I don't know how you could solve both of those. Well, actually, the first one you could solve by me stop reading every series that comes out in a year, but that's not happening. We both know that. But the second one is just like, how do you grab someone's attention? And that's something we all have to kind of grapple with as just content creators in general. Like, how do you hook someone's attention and on anything, and how do you keep that attention throughout a long series? And I truly just don't know how to do that. But overall, I just didn't think it succeeded in doing that. But also, I just think, you know, vampires, vampire hunters, bloody, gory stuff, that's just not a series that I would enjoy anyways. But we can move on to our next series. Say the Right Thing is another one of the Daily Pass series I mentioned. Same thing with Stare Down and My Beloved Emperor. Sorry, I forgot how this started. Overall, I don't think it is a terrible series. I would pick it up. The problem with me is that there's too much going on. I think Stare Down has the opposite problem to Say the Right Thing, where Stare Down has like nothing going on. Say the Right Thing has too much going on. There are soulmates. There is magic, but the magic is illegal. There is a criminal on the run. Guess what? The criminal is also his soulmate, and then they get teleported to somewhere else because of magic. And then now they enemies to lovers go through a whirlwind romance. I have to assume because soulmates exist. Now, soulmates are a very weird topic, I'll say, because like, what defines a soulmate? Like, can you only have one person you like the entire time? It's a weird kind of like fate argument thing. that I don't super care about, but it's fine. Soulmates have never been a big issue for me in any situation, so I don't really care about soulmates in that aspect, but it just has so much going on at once that it feels like you probably could have just not had the soulmates part, or you could have just like had just the magic and the criminal on the run. Like, that's a fine series to have where, you know, he gets caught up in this situation, and then now he kind of learns quickly that this person isn't actually a murderer, isn't actually a criminal, but is just on the run and is looking for answers, kind of thing. It is questionable in terms of that. I assume it is enemies to lovers because it is a romance and they're soulmates, but it just has a lot going on, and I don't think that's too bad of a problem to have. That means you're always gonna have something you're interested in, but it means that you will be overwhelmed with things. But if you're reading just this series, yeah, go for it, it's great. But if you're reading like me, 20 other series that day, it's hard to keep up with like everything going on, and that's why I didn't continue reading it. But overall, it was pretty good. But we can move on to our next series. Changing the genre from Angst to Heartwarming is a stupid title. It's a stupid title, and you and I both know it's a stupid title. It's another, she gets isekai'd into a book, not as a villain this time, but as a, hey look, another vampire, yay! She gets isekai'd into the book as the main character's little sister. So to save the main character from like the vampire or the beast's death, I don't know what he is. He's cursed with something. It doesn't explain it super well. To save her older sister, she kind of takes her place when, or she encourages her to run away, and she takes her place at the Cursed Duke's mansion or whatever nonsense. And it turns from a like, oh, she's gonna die to, oh, it's a pretty, like, it's a cutesy story now kind of thing. Overall, it was okay. I didn't think anything was too bad about it. I did like the characters, and I think that's a big part of the series, is having interesting and fun characters. Like, that's an important part of the series. I think you can have an okay story, an okay world, an okay art, but as long as the characters are fun and interesting, that's the main thing I'm going to be looking for. How interesting and appealing are the characters? Because I think a boring character is a death sentence. I think that's why I dislike a lot of the other series that have come out this month, was just because the characters aren't all that compelling. They aren't all that interesting to me. And some are just like, look, you can do like the cool, like, oh, I'm so cool, I don't have emotions kind of character. But that's kind of boring. It's kind of boring. Why would you want to do that? Like, I think doing it ironically is funny, but doing it unironically is just like, oh, okay, I guess that's fine. And one of the things I think I will give this series credit for is that the characters are fun. There's a slime character later on in the series. That slime character is great. Let me look for that slime character, actually. Yeah, this slime character is great. I love this slime character. He's great. He's such a goofball. There's just like, it's great, and characters are super important in any situation, and I think all the characters are pretty good. I just didn't know about picking this series up. Overall, it's fine, it's good. I did enjoy it though. We can move on to our next series. Is that a truck? I became the level 99 demon queen. It's such an anime title it's such an anime title. It's such a stupid title. I became level 99 demon queen. Girl gets isekai'd into a video game she played accidentally, where she's dying, she dies. The god is like the god of reincarnation, I guess. This dude, the god, is like, hey, sorry your life sucked. You get to choose who you want to get reincarnated into. And she's like, oh, I want to be reincarnated into a character from a video game I played, who she's always loved, she's always cared for. And then the god's like, oh, what's the character's name? And then she's like, she forgot the character's name, so she's like, okay, so in this game, there's a level 99 demon queen. And the god's like, got it, easy, done. And reincarnates her into the level 99 demon queen, which I think is pretty funny, actually. It's demon queen, demon lord stuff, villain, she's trying to be a good person. It's a video game this time. Overall, fine. Overall, okay. I think one of the downfalls was the characters. I don't remember the characters being all too interesting. And that's something you kind of want. You want the characters to be interesting somehow, some way. You want to remember these things. You want to, and that's the biggest thing, is like, if I leave the series kind of not caring if I see this character again or not, Is it that might just be me though? That might just be me, as like I might just have a different idea of what this character should be or what are interesting characters. But like, look, everyone compares it. Everyone tries to be the next Lloyd Frontera, but like the Grid Estate developer, everyone wants to be the next Lloyd Frontera because he sticks out. He's interesting. I do like this panel. This is a cute panel. But he sticks out. He's memorable. He's interesting, you know? People remember the hooligan Lloyd Frontera. But, you know, no one really remembers the cool person who played it straight and didn't care. Like, that's boring. Give us interesting characters. Give us crazy people. Who cares? It's a story. We can move on to our next series, though. Angel Wings. This is a super cute series that I didn't super care about. It is by the same author as Just a Goblin, and I think by the same artist as Overtime Elite, a different series that came out this month. A girl is born a devil. She wants to be an angel because she doesn't like, you know, the idea of sentencing people to hell because of simple things they did or simple mistakes. So she goes up to heaven and she wants to like challenge fate or whatever nonsense. It's hard to enjoy a series that has such a bright and bubbly and a little naive character. Naivete is hard to write, I'll say. It's hard to write in an interesting way outside of people being kids. So like right now she's a kid, it makes sense that she's a little naive, but like as the series goes on, she becomes an adult and she is still a demon. Like she becomes an adult demon. And she has a bunch of demon friends, so it's like it's hard to like kind of see it as super interesting, like this idea of naivete or seeing the world in a better light. It's not a terrible series by any stretch of the imagination. I would pick it up. I honestly don't know something didn't click with me in this series. I don't know what it was, but something just didn't grab me in the same way. This is just a white screen. Oh, there it is. Something didn't grab me in the same way that a lot of other series did, and I'm bummed about that because it looked like a cool series, but I just didn't care after a certain amount of time. And you know what? That's on me. I think Brendan Chan is his name, the author of Just a Goblin, this one, and Overtime Elite. Great author, you know. I love two of those series. So like, I don't think it's a fault of him. I think it's just a fault of me. I genuinely just think I'm wrong. I'm built different. I'm built wrong. If you like this series, I understand why. There's a lot of good this series has. It just wasn't for me kind of thing, and that's fine. I know that's fine. I just feel guilty that I didn't pick up a series when I know there's a person behind it kind of thing. But we can move on to our next series. Hello, Sour Crush. Falls into a little bit of the same problem that Say the Right Thing does, where there's a lot going on in this world. Our female lead's parents die due to the man with no eyes, which is an intense title, but he's an intense looking figure. So understandable title. She's trying to hunt down her parents' killer. She's trying to find these gangs to get him. She has a special thing that gives her special powers. There's a massive corporation that might have probably had a hand in the parents' death kind of thing. I just didn't care for it. Our female lead is cool, I guess. Female lead's cool. There's just a lot going on in this series. She's angry. Honestly, I can't think of anything that stuck out in my mind for this series. You know, the horror aspect is interesting. The horror aspect, like the man with no eyes, let me find him. Like that's a cool villain. You have to say that's a cool villain. Like that's a terrifying guy right there. Overall, I don't think there's anything that really grabbed my attention to keep reading the next chapter kind of thing. Learning the motivations is great, is very important, but it's also just like, is part of learning as the character as a whole. And I just feel like I don't know anything about our main character, so I don't really care about her motivations kind of thing. There's a tournament going on, a fight tournament. She fights to get something. I don't really remember. We can move on to our next series. Phantom Whispers is really cool. Actually, it is one of the only horror series this month that I debate on picking up or going back to. It is almost like a horror mystery series where our female lead gets like gets little like visions or hears hallucinations of ghosts, but the ghosts are real because they are ghosts of victims, and the ghosts are like, hey, you can hear me, solve my death, solve my murder, go do this, go do that, bring my killer to justice kind of thing. So immediately off the bat, there is an interesting kind of story to tell here. Characters are cool. I think are pretty well fleshed out and developed. Our female lead is worried that these like hallucinations aren't real, but then has to fight back against her family who thinks they're just straight hallucinations, while she thinks, these are actually happening. And she goes to different people and like no one believes her, because why would they believe this situation? I do enjoy it a lot in the terms of horror series out there, because it's a cool series. Horror is an interesting trope or genre that I just don't care super much about. I'll be honest, sorry to say. There's nothing about horror that compels me to continue reading it, but it is a cool thing to have mystery in it. Mystery and horror go hand in hand so well. Like, why is the monster here? What is going on? XYZ. And I do love this series and how it's set up its mystery and how it's set up its world. I do think I might check it out again. It might be a series though that I check out in bursts. Like, oh, I'm bored one day, I'm out, I'm gonna go and read this series and catch up and then like put it away kind of thing. There are series that I do think that's kind of the best way to enjoy it. A lot of like Royal Regression Revenge series I do enjoy best that way. Like, I'll go back to like My Beloved, what is it called? There's like 5 of them. There's like 5 My Beloveds. You know what? Who cares? But it is a cool horror series, and if you want a horror series this month, I will recommend this one, and then there's another one that came out as well. But these are super cool, and I do really enjoy this one. But we can move on to our next series, The Barbarian of Seoul Station. Now I have a joke here. We're slowly forming a crew of Seoul Station people, because we have the Druid of Seoul Station, and we also now have the Barbarian of Seoul Station. We're forming a full D&D group at this point. It's an isekai where a barbarian from a different world gets sent to Earth, and then after being sent to Earth, grows up, and then 10 years later gets sent to a different world with his friends, or with his singular friend. Barbarians are cool. Surviving the game as a barbarian is hype. This series seems pretty hype as well. The biggest problem this series had is that it came out with 1 episode. And I'll say that's a death sentence for a series. Coming out with 1 episode is like the best way to get people not interested in it, because the series seems cool, but you need, no matter how many panels there are, you need more time, no matter what. Even if there's an equal amount of panels over the span of 3 episodes versus 1 straight episode, I'll say pick the 3 episodes, because I don't know why, something about clicking the next episode gets the people interested in reading what follows, and then what follows again, and then they hit the line of like, oh, we're all out, no more series, but you can subscribe and come back next week kind of thing. Here you just scroll to the end, and then you're like, okay, that's interesting, bye. That kind of thing. You understand my drift? I think the same problem happened with the new hire is the Demon Lord that came out a couple months back. It's a good series and I am reading it now, but the only reason I'm reading it now is because the coffee break I made for it, I had to go and like get an image for a thumbnail, so I read like 3 more episodes that came out, and I was like, oh, this is great. I don't know why I didn't read this. I know why I read it, because only 1 episode came out and I didn't see how great it was kind of thing. And that's the problem I have with this one, where yeah, I could go back and check it out, but I don't know what's happening. Webtoon is releasing 3 series in like 1 day for random reasons. Like it started happening last month or in September, but like this month I think 3 separate times 3 series came out, and that's too many series for me to be like, oh, I should go check out to see how Barbarian of Soul Street's doing, because that seemed pretty interesting, but I wanted to see more of it kind of thing. So it's a downfall of my end. Okay, so yeah, he goes into a new world and he starts fighting goblins kind of thing, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's an isekai, whatever. Just a downside of reading every single webtoon series is that I don't give time to go back and then read again. Now, I often would before 2024, if a series seemed interesting enough, I would be like, oh, it needs a little more time to cook, so I will hold on to the series and let it cook. But now I feel like I can't do that as much, because that means I would have to read like 40 episodes a day, and like every week I'd give a different series another shot, and I don't think I have that in me, guys. I don't have it in me. Tuesday 30 series update, and I don't have that in me, okay? Let's move on to our next series. Banhyang Remote Island is another horror series. School trip goes wrong. They go to an island that has like a cult that's trying to summon the Great One, I think is the idea. Overall, pretty cool. I do enjoy it. The art style is very cool. The world building is very cool. The cult is very cool. It's another horror series. I just don't have a lot to say or think about it. Something about the one of the bullied kids is going sicko mode, or he's having his Joker arc kind of thing. Overall, I remember really enjoying what the series had to offer. But I just didn't enjoy it enough because it is another horror thriller series. I'm just not a big fan of horror thriller series. But I think overall, it's a cool series that if you want another horror thriller series, this will be right up your alley. Just wasn't for me because, I'm just a wimp who doesn't like horror stuff. Overall, very cool. I just don't really have a lot more to say about it. But we can move on to our next series. Light of Arad, the Forerunner, is a fun isekai video game series where a main character is a streamer. He gets isekai'd into a game. The gods of the game are like, hey, there are problems in this game. Can you come and fix them, please? I don't know. Oh, and the reason he gets chosen is because other people have been chosen to come and then like fight the things. This guy is one of them. This guy has been chosen to fight the things, but one of the rules is you can only fight things alone for some reason. I don't understand why they can only fight things alone, but you can only fight things alone. So our main character goes and like, hey, I'll help you fight this boss. And he's like, no, you idiot. You can't do that. That's not allowed. And then he dies. So our main character is like, well, I guess the gods are like, the main character, you killed him. So you're going to go and take his place kind of thing. I think a fun part about it is that like, what is it? A fun part about it is this idea of it's a game to a lot of other people. Like in terms of video game isekais, the isekai aspect is usually just one person. You get one individual. Sometimes you get like multiple individuals, but they're still all isekai'd into the game, and now that the game is their life. Versus you get isekai'd into the game, but they're still just normal people playing the game. And that's a cool thing that like not a lot of series do. And it kind of touches onto like how like there are people who like watch these people play the game and they think that guy is just really, they take it way too seriously. They're just really into role playing their game. Like they're like, please lend me your aid. I'm gonna go, do this. Like their character is too much. So it's interesting seeing our main character like, man, this guy is really into like role playing this game versus no, now he's actually in the game kind of thing, and that's just how he was talking to be able to play the game normally. So it is an interesting detail, or it's an interesting perspective. Oh, sorry, my mic. It is an interesting perspective that I feel like a lot of series don't do because it's hard to do it. But it's also very just interesting to see how I'm saying interesting way too much, but it's just a cool part of an isekai that you don't get to see too often. Also, the art is beautiful. The art is beautiful in this series. We could move on to our next series, though. Enoch, the Shining Tree, that's a mouthful of a title. I don't know why it's called that. It's about a witch who curses a bunch of knights to live forever. And you might be like, oh, immortality. A lot of people fight for that. No, they go crazy. They go absolutely crazy. They're in pain. They're living forever, so they go insane. They start killing a bunch of people. Our main character's family dies to the knights that are immortal. So he goes on a revenge thing where, he starts training with another immortal knight. He becomes part immortal as well, because I believe some of when he dies, the witch that's friends with him, I guess, kind of saves a breastplate that kind of gets infused into him, and he stays alive forever kind of thing. It's pretty hardcore fantasy. A lot of death, a lot of blood, a lot of violence. Overall, I was very close to picking this series up. I just don't think there's just something about it that I didn't fully like grab onto. The entire series, it does feel like a prologue, if that makes sense. Like, it does feel like there is more. It was finally starting to kind of like, okay, and now the story starts. And maybe that's just a me thing where I had a problem with that. I don't think I had a problem with it necessarily. It just is something that I noticed. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting enough. But, you know, I'll pass kind of thing. But overall, it still seemed pretty cool. But we can finally move on to the series I'm actually reading, and these are pretty hype series. So let's go to our first one. Overtime Elite is so hype, my guy. It's so hype. I'll say, for someone who hates sports normally, every single sports webtoon I've picked up has been hype. Like, The Boxer, School of Streets, this series, Powerless. I think when it's focusing on the sports, it's great. I know people love Windbreaker. People think Windbreaker is the best webtoon, period. And Overtime Elite is pretty great. It's honestly great. I love sports series because sports series almost feel like action series. I don't know why they do. I don't know how they go so hard with basketball and dancing and I think bike riding. But like, man, is Overtime Elite really fun. There's just something about basketball that's like, yeah, swords are cool, but have you ever seen someone dribble a ball? Like, it's such a weird thing that's like really cool. I don't know why I'm so hyped over Overtime Elite. It is truly just a basketball series, but I do really enjoy like how well sports series are like, they show movement because movement is such an important part of it. So it's just such a cool it's just such a cool thing to see how cool the movement is. And I think sports series is just such a great way of seeing it. You get a lot of easy motivation as well, trying to be the best, trying to do XYZ. I just really love sports webtoon for no reason, really. There's just something about every single sports webtoon. It's like every time I pick one up, I know it's going to be hype. And it has been. So far, the 2 sports series that have come out in 2024 have been hype. Overtime Elite is also amazing. I love it so much. It's great. But we can move on to our next series. Introverted Us. I should not have liked as much as I did. Introverted Us is probably gonna be a school romance between 2 very introverted people, but right now it is a comedy series, and it is a great comedy series. It's what I say, like, when I still pick up school series, this is what was on my mind, as well as another one, where technically speaking, it's just an average school series. But to me, what carries it is the characters. I love our female lead. I love our male lead. They're both great. The idea is that we follow 2 very, very hardcore introverted people who don't like talking to anyone at all. But one dude is a very popular dude who's like, I hate every time I'm around people. And the other person is our female lead who terrifies people just by looking at her. But she's like, okay. It's just like such an awkward situation that that it feeds into how like charming it is, and the characters as well are charming. They're all very interesting, and I think that's what kept me going. Is that just like, it's interesting. It's the characters themselves are charming, and I think that's part of it. Like, a series can be charming, a situation can be charming, yada yada yada. But I think a big part of school series is that the characters have to be charming for me to be interested in it. And a lot of the time, like, I think they focus on the situation being charming, or the romance being charming, or them, oh, they held hands, oh, and then got blushy. No. This series is like, they're basically like terrible at conversating. This might be a Operation True Love reference. I don't know about that. It's sorry, I forgot about this. It's very charming, and it's not just like, oh, the series is charming. The characters are great, and I love the characters, and that's what's missing. I love the characters here. But we can move on to our next series. I Killed the Main Character is by the author of or is by the people of the Extras Academy Survival Guide. And I'll say, it's basically the same series, but with a different coat of paint. The idea for both is that we follow someone who got isekai'd into his favorite game, and he became the side character. He became like a side NPC, or he became someone who's not super important to the story. And then he decides, hey, I'm gonna leave the main character to do their own thing, and I'm just gonna do me. and then through situations they get involved in the main plot. Now the situations are different between the two. In Extra's Academy Survival Guide, our guy gets isekai'd into the body of like a side villain who then accidentally becomes important because like the main plot keeps on going off the rails and he has to basically rope the main plot back on its track. This situation is someone gets isekai'd into the body of the main character in this game. So he's our main character, and then there's the main character of the game he got isekai'd into, and then someone else got isekai'd into that main character. Oh my goodness, that's such a mouthful. And then he became like a side character who was like helping the main character who got the isekai'd main character into like defeating the final boss or whatever nonsense. Like he also finds someone. I think the coolest part is that intro where it's like, oh, there's a main character and he's a side character, but the main character is actually the main character, the person sorry, this is such a confusing way to describe it. The main character is actually a kind of a terrible person. Like, he's all about efficiency. He's all about like doing things as efficiently as possible. He doesn't care about like relationships or doing any of that. That's whatever. And he like takes advantage of a bunch of different like NPCs. One of the interesting things about this series is that, or about our main character, is that the main character of the series is in love with our main character. Like, it gets to the end where our main character sees all the trophies that like the other important side characters have, and the main character is like, oh, you notice, what are you doing here? Like, you know what, you need to be efficient. You need to get through the story efficiently. You don't need to get like, you don't need to build relationships or raise their intimacy level. You know, I know how to do this right. And he's like, and there's a part of it that's like, stop looking at the other females. Look at just me. After all, I'm the only one you should be thinking about. I should be your entire world. He's like, from now on, just love me. He's like, just love me kind of thing. And it's like I only love you kind of thing. And that's an interesting kind of situation, because that's like, I feel like never been really done before. Because like, yeah, it kind of makes sense that he wouldn't love anyone else because he's probably gay, but that's not the main point. The main point is like, everyone else is fake to him. Everyone else isn't real to him. So of course he loves the one person who is real. Which is a cool part of an isekai that I feel like hasn't been done before. But then, you know, main character fails at saving the world, so our main character goes back in time to when he got isekai in the first place, but he has all the knowledge intact, and then he kills the main character, and then it becomes the new main character, but he doesn't have access to all the skills, so he has to figure out creative ways to deal with all the situations. Whew. It's a cool series. It's interesting. I'm reading it. I think it started off really strong, and it's not as interesting as the Extras Academy Survival Guide, but it is interesting enough for me to continue reading it. But we can move on to our next series. Oh, it is also, what is it? Awakened One systems. There are systems in this world. Yada, yada, yada. Bingo. We can move on to our next series. Seabird and Wolf follows a girl with a seabird. A seabird is apparently a magical bird that tells its owner ocean stuff, like weather and things like that. And then because of the magical bird, her entire family and her sister and village die or get kidnapped and sold into slavery. And she's also sold into slavery, and she makes it her life mission to find her sister and XYZ. It's cool. Story's pretty cool. Motivation's pretty cool. I love ocean stories. I love the sea. Not enough pirate series. I'm not reading One Piece. I hate One Piece, but I like pirates. So having a pirate series is great. Having a pirate series with mythical birds is great. I do really enjoy everything that's going on in this series at this point. And I'm excited just to see where it's going. Motivations are great. Characters are cool. I actually want to see more of the characters. I feel like that's the one part it's lacking, is that we really only get our main character, which I think is understandable. It's the beginning of the series, you know. Things need to build up to the other characters. But I do enjoy kind of seeing the other characters as well interact with her. But we can move on to our next series. Angel of Death. Now, I cannot lie to you, or I shouldn't be lying to you. I like Angel of Death a lot. The idea is that the Angel of Death accidentally lost a soul and has been banished to the human realm to find that soul and bring it back. Meanwhile, the soul he lost older sister, I believe, or younger sister, someone, her sister notices that he's an entity that has to bring the soul back, so she's using him to get to her soul to save her. It's a cool trope. It's a cool series. I do like that she immediately finds out that he's like some supernatural entity, and they're kind of both using each other, which I think is fun. I do enjoy this series. I said I was subscribed to it. I didn't subscribe to it accidentally. So, technically that's all towards the beginning stuff. I will go back and read it, but I kind of forgot about this series. So maybe I shouldn't be reading it because it just didn't grab my attention. Actually, I did remember, like, oh, I remember Angel of Death. When's that supposed to update? It hasn't updated yet. And I just forgot about it again because Tuesday hit me with 32 series that need to be read. I'm like, goodness gracious, I read too much. It is a very, our main character, or the Angel of Death, is very, like, Ice Prince. He doesn't care about humanity, and through this situation, and I assume finding love, it is an enemies to lovers, I have to assume, and through the situation of being a human, spending time with humans and finding love, he learns to appreciate humanity for what it is, yada yada yada. I do enjoy that trope. It's a fun trope. It is often the fall from grace kind of idea, like the hardcore leveling warrior or dungeon cleaning life of a once genius hunter. This idea of someone who is super strong and super important kind of falls below their standard power or ability or yada yada yada, and has to work their way up and eventually learns life lessons, yada yada yada. It's interesting. I will go back and read it after this recording. We can move on to our next series. JAKDU, Shaman's Blade, is a cool series where our main character has some connection to, like, spiritual shamans or whatever nonsense. These spirits that they have to, and then teaming up with another girl, they both fight against these, like, spirits that are summoned into their world, and they have to battle against them, doing all this stuff. It's a pretty cool series, and it's a pretty cool premise, and I do enjoy it a lot, and I'm excited to see where it is going. So far, they've fought, I think, they're fighting 3 now, but they fight against all these different spirits in different ways, and I think that's a really cool way of doing it, where they have to either kill the spirit or, like, put it to peace kind of thing. And I do think there is a lot of ways they can make that super interesting, because right now, like, for example, this is like an athlete kind of guy. Yeah, so they can either fight the spirits and take them down, or they can, like, put them at ease by, like, making them do the things they want to do. For example, for the sports one, he wants to, like, cross the finish line. He finally wanted to be the athlete to win kind of thing. So I do enjoy this series a lot. I'm excited to see where it will go. There's a lot of things with the female lead's mom. That's the current arc. So it is an interesting series, and I am excited. But we can move on to our next series. Reincarnated Murim Lord is kind of like Reincarnated as an unruly heir, where a really powerful and a good dude, a good martial artist dude, dies and gets reincarnated as a different, less than ideal martial artist. In Unruly Heir, he gets reincarnated as the villain, basically, or part of the villain group. Here, it's just he gets reincarnated as a dude that's very disliked by everyone. So seeing, like, a very old, wise, strong dude get reincarnated as basically like a hooligan, a Lloyd Frontera type person, is very fun. I did enjoy the premise more than I am currently enjoying a lot of the episodes that have come out so far, so I'm not sure if I'm going to keep on reading it. It goes back into, like, the whole, how interesting are the main characters, and following an old dude becoming a young dude is certainly an interesting situation. I think all that really depends is how much does the supporting cast kind of make that situation more interesting. It is fine so far. I think it can be better, but I'm gonna hold off and see where it's going, kind of thing. Because if it kind of stays as, I'll say, average as it is, I might not continue reading it. But if it kind of gets better, then I will continue reading it. But we can move on to the weirdest series that's come out in all of 2024. Duolingo Unleashed is a straight Duolingo series, like an official one. It's the language bird. It's weirdly good. It's a pretty good series. And it's charming, it's cute, the characters are funny. It is, I'll say, just the Gravity Falls episode where Dipper clones himself. it is just that episode, and then he clones too many, and then they become a problem. It is weirdly, it's sometimes a little cringe. For example, his butt is less bootylicious than the main ones. But like, then he clones a bunch, or the bear clones a bunch of duos, and then they become a problem in society. It is the strangest series that's come out in 2024. The Duolingo birds become a menace to society, and then the team, which is Duo, Falstaff, Lily, and other girl. I forgot the other girl. I'm sorry, I don't remember these people's names. They kind of hunt all these duo birds down, and then collect them, and then I think blow up the thing. There's a big duo bird. It is weirdly good. It is weirdly good. It falls under the same thing as like the Try Guys, super sick. But I no shade to the Try Guys. They seem like cool people. This series is much more interesting. It is only 5 episodes long. It will not get more. But I think it's a good short story. And if you're weirdly interested in this, I think you should check it out because you have truly nothing to lose except maybe 15 minutes. It's pretty good. I do enjoy this one. We can move on though. Seasons of Lovesome. Look, I said I'm not gonna pick up school series or school romances. This is just a school romance, but it is a sequel of a school romance that I did really like. Seasons of Blossom. Seasons of Blossom is a really great series. Like, it's a good series. I feel like it's more than just a school romance, because it has the idea of like going through different seasons of people's life. You have spring, which is romance, summer, which is, I forgot what summer is, fall, which is kind of this idea of like renewal or change in someone's life, and then winter, which is someone's like cold life kind of thing. So seeing it get a sequel is great. That's definitely why I picked it up, but I also think it's just charming. You know, all the characters are back. They're all as interesting. And I think this has a heads up or an advantage versus a bunch of other series that have come out. Because the main thing is that I know these characters already. I know them all already. I know their characters, so it doesn't need to spend time to develop them comparatively. Also, I just really like the original series. So I think for me, there was no like hesitation on picking this one up kind of thing. But you know, it's good. I do enjoy that one. So we can move on to our next series. The Academy of Marginalized Superpowers is pretty stupid and pretty great. General idea, they go to a school and the school is like you have powers here, but all these powers are super gimmicky. You know, changing someone's name, stopping wheels on command, being a spoon, maybe. They are like like 5 or 6 panels each time. It's a goofy series. It's stupid. It's funny. Like, that's you're getting what you sorry, I forgot about this. You're getting what you asked for with this series. Like, you're not getting anything more than that, but it's very funny. It's very funny. I do enjoy it a lot. And like, it's like a funny thing of like, hey, it's this series. This series is like 5 panels. You read it for like 2 minutes and then you're good kind of thing. It's very exciting. Sorry. Oh, what is this? What is this? I smell gas, daddy. It's so stupid, but I'm such a big fan of the humor. We're going to go on to our next series because there's just not a lot to say about this one. Humanido follows a girl who stutters so much her classmates believe she's a robot, which is a wild step to take because there's just a full-on actual other robot in this school. So it's very strange that it's like this girl's the robot when this guy is just more robot than she is. That kind of thing. Like, it is interesting, and it feels a lot like Maru is a puppy, or the Demon Lord is my little sister, or my little sister is a Demon Lord, whatever way is the right way to say it. It has that same vibe of being pretty stupid and pretty funny. It has that same idea of like, this is such a stupid situation, but it's very cute and charming and wholesome. And that's the idea of like those types of series. I love Maru's a Puppy. I think My Little Sister's Demon Lord's great. And Humanido follows like the same path. It is the first heartwarming webtoon of the year. I didn't know heartwarming was a genre, so that's on me specifically. But it is heartwarming. I do say it is heartwarming. It does follow the very goofy, very random, very strange situations that kind of are stupid but great because of it. Overall, I like it. I do enjoy it. It's a fun little series. We can move on to our next one though. Asura is pretty cool. I do enjoy Asura a lot. It is like martial arts series, But it's not following a sect. It's following just these group of people who wander around. And I said they might have been looking for immortality. That's a lie currently. The main idea is that they hunt down a bunch of like cursed amulets and artifacts, and they kind of like seal them away or do something with it. It's a very cool take on martial arts series, where instead of following someone bringing their sect back from the dead or becoming the leader of a sect kind of thing, it follows more like an anthology of like going from location to location, sect to sect, looking for cursed amulets, different strange situations, different monsters, or all this stuff. I do enjoy it a lot, where I feel like it has like its hand in like a lot of different things, where it feels like an anthology of like, yeah, there's this one character who's going from place to place and that's the main connection, but every time he does, like, it's a different situation and we see different lives and different things that have happened. Like, we follow one sect who, we follow this sect that has this beast collar that turns people into werewolves, and then we follow like the next leader, and then there's this like interesting situation of like, we get basically this entire episode without words, where it's like the sect leader finds someone who's dying and on the ground, so he brings them back to the sect and he heals them and brings them back to health, and then he lets them go, and he's like, oh, it's a very sweet, very warming like situation. But then that guy turns out to be just a full wanted criminal, and the guy comes back and he brings all his people, and then he goes and like basically kills the entire sect, so the person puts on his collar. It's an interesting situation of seeing like different lives basically, and how different people affect different situations, and all these, what drove people to try to get power or try to get strength. And I do really enjoy how this series handles all this stuff. It is really enjoyable. It is not as grand as I thought it would be. I thought it would be like a big overarching story, but I think this is a cooler take than just like finding a MacGuffin at the end of the rainbow thing. And I do enjoy it a lot. We can move on to our next series. A Practical Guide to Evil. I'll be honest, I don't know if you watch my shorts, I don't know why I didn't recommend this series at the end. This series is very cool. It is a meta story about villains and heroes and roles. The main idea is like the good army versus the bad army, but the bad army wins after 70 years or whatever, and they finally win and they take over the empire, and now like the idea is that the villains run the world. But like it's a clever thing of like, how villainous can you villain basically. Where like they're not villains in the sense of like they're sitting in a council and they're like laughing, and then they bring people and they kill them for fun, but like they just have different views and different perspectives on like what should and how should things happen and what their morals are. It's a very cool meta story about villainy. It's a very cool meta story about what is right and what is wrong. And our main character isn't someone who wants to do right. She just wants to get into control so she can make life easier for her citizens. That's truly it. She's not like, there is no like redemption, quote unquote. There is no like, it's an interesting situation of like, yeah, these people are cool, but they're villains, so you can't like them too much. It's the equivalent of like the enemy of my enemy. So she teams up with villains, not because she agrees with them, but because she wants to get strength and not to like be in control, but just to help people. But not because she wants to be a hero, just because she doesn't want to see people who don't deserve it die. So it's like, it's an interesting take on all these situations, and I'm loving it. I don't know why I didn't recommend it before. I think it's a hard pill to swallow if you're not someone who doesn't already like fantasy stories though. Like, it feels like it needs to live in comparison to like Lord of the Rings, for example. Like it needs to be in a sea of other like fantasy armies where the good guys win, where this needs to stand out against them. And I think it does, and it's great. I do really enjoy it. We can move on to our next series though. Boss Return is a cool series where a dude who's the mafia leader dies and goes back in time to when he was in high school, and then doesn't want to be a mafia member anymore because he doesn't want his wife to die. It's fun. It's goofy. It's weirdly goofy. You know, you might be like, oh, the Mob Boss series is goofy, but it's fun. I do enjoy the slice of life it contains, you know, all these different things of like, he knows that people might betray him. Like, this dude is his right-hand man who does lead to his death in his previous life, but is the brother of the girl he marries. So it's like he's trying to be like a good person, but he's trying to juggle that with like people keeps on trying to challenge him and people trying to take down like people he cares about. So it is an interesting balance of like, I want to be good, but also things keep on happening and I have to protect people. So I do enjoy that aspect a lot. Overall, I'm digging it. I'm digging it a lot. But we can move on to our last series of the month. Goodness gracious, I've been here for too long. Cinderella is a story where our female lead is in love with another female lead, and that female lead marries the prince, who's like a hero who killed the pirate king and then saved the world. So they're married, and now she's heartbroken that her love is married to someone else, kind of thing. It is so close to being just an actual love triangle. But I'll say, like, not a classic love triangle where it's like two guys are interested in the girl, but it's like this girl is interested in that girl, but it seems like that girl is also back interested in her, and they're in like a fake dating situation. By the way, fake dating, woo, they are technically fake dating. Our main character isn't. And then she meets a different person who really dislikes the prince as much as she does, kind of thing. I don't know why it's called Cinderella. I don't know if her name is Cinderella. It might be. I'm bad with names. But it is an interesting. I keep on saying an interesting situation because that's just my go-to. I'm so sorry, but it is interesting to see almost a love square of people being interested in each other, but like wanting to hold back. It has LGBTQ plus stuff in it. She's interested in her. I assume these two dates. I have to believe so. I think they will plot against the prince, even though she stops her from killing him because her crush needs him for some reason. And then maybe I think she wants her crush to eventually break up with the prince so they'll get together. And I don't think that's going to work out. And then as time goes on, as they plot, they'll get together kind of thing. I do like the characters as well. All four of the characters have really cool designs and have really cool attitudes toward their situation. And I do enjoy that a lot. Cinderella is, I don't know why it's called Cinderella, but we'll see as time goes on. But those are all the series that came out in the month of October. Goodness gracious, 36 different series. Oh man, I really can't. In case you didn't notice, I did get bingo. Woo! Bingo! Yay! What does that mean? Nothing! I did lose bingo once, and I have to do a punishment, so keep on reminding me of what punishments I should do. But those have been all the series that have come out in October. So let me know which series you like the most, which series you disagree with me and say, hey, it's actually good when it's bad, or hey, it's actually bad when it's good. And tell me the favorite series that have come out this month. I really love Practical Guide. I really love Boss Return. I really love Overtime Elite. These are great highlight series that I really enjoy. So tell me if you enjoy them as well. But I hope to catch you on your next break. Take care.